All right. Good morning. Terry Gray, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I know it's been a few days since our last scope, but I wanted to kind of catch up and really maybe even illustrate today's lesson in the fact that we haven't had as many scopes. Everybody that's joining, good to see you. I saw Kason on Latour. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. T. Good morning. Good morning. If you guys don't mind, go ahead and share. Go ahead and share that we're on. Just so that if your friends are on, they too will know. Thank you for the hearts. Hearts mean that you heard something meaningful or at least expecting it. And so again, appreciate you coming on. Good morning. Good morning. Wisdom Gift Join. Where you guys from? Where are you now? City, states? Are you in? I see a lot from Virginia. Today we wanna kind of recap, and I want to do a short scope, and of course, short for me is probably longer than it would be for most. But I definitely want to kind of jump into today's scope, and really today we want to review days 6 through 8, and then talk about 9. Chesapeake, good morning. So we're in this jumpstart, 2016. Just some insights on some things we can all do. I appreciate those hearts over there. Some things we can do, just to better ourselves for the year. And so, day 6 is actually an insight day. And when we say insight days, it's really an insight where you invest in you. It's interesting. The Bible talks about this 7-day pattern, and it says 6 days you are work, and then the 7th day you are to rest. I'll talk about rest in a minute. But for day 6 for us, it should be a day that you invest in you. Typically, now I know everybody's schedule is different, but typically, you work 5 days, Monday through Friday. Some people Tuesday through Saturday. I know some people get that graveyard shift. But the idea is, if you work 5 days, and we have a 2-day weekend, one of those 2 days we know is to be reserved for God and rest. Then what are you doing that 6th day? Typically Saturday. My suggestion in 2016 is you find a way to invest in you. Find some insights, do some things, sign up for some workshops, some seminars, attend some classes, read some books, travel to some places, but do it for you. Those other 5 days, we're so involved. We do so much. We do so much for our employers. If we're self-employed, we do so much, just to maintain stability financially. If you're a parent, you're taking care of children. If you're a spouse, you're trying to make sure that your spouse is taken care of. But there ought to be one day that you invest in you. Invest in your dream, invest in a hobby, invest in a new business venture. And on that 6th day, you should maybe consider putting intentional time on something that will make you better. For some of you, it may be a break or vacation. And I may be preaching to the choir. Some of you are already doing that daily. Maybe you're working out, every day, or maybe you're reading books just for yourself every day. That's great. So maybe you can add up, the hours that you do throughout the week and make it a day for self-improvement. Thank you. Right. But really you want to make sure there's a day. And I'm not quite sure we do that. If we work 5 days and we rest, give God a Sabbath day, and God says we ought to work 6 days, the day 6 for us, the jumpstart, is do something to invest in you. For instance, this Saturday, actually we hosted a conversation on preaching, and we just had preachers in training, some pastors, ministers coming together, and we took time from 9 to 3, and we just talked about the craft of preaching, how to study text, how to deliver the text, why do it, how important it is. But that was a day people didn't have to spend, doing that self-improvement. But they did. And yes, we do have DVDs and we'll post them online. I see you asking for that. But the key is that there were people who took time to invest in themselves. Or, where do you work? I know your job may send you out, for self-improvement workshops or for changes in policy and procedure. But what are you doing to make yourself better at your job? Are you taking classes? Are you trying to get another degree? Are you attending workshops? Are you engaging in think tanks that will somehow help you become better at whatever vocation or skill you have? Listen, day 6, the recap, is you want to do something. Find a way, find a day really to invest in you. Now, day 7, 2016 would have been the day of rest. We didn't do a scope on that day. That was Sunday. And to be honest, the key to real rest is being able to shift weight to something else that can take care of you. That's probably how I summarize it. When God talks about, the Sabbath day being His and being a day of rest, I mean, definitely it is. Excuse me. Definitely it is. Lay down, rest. It may be sit down and rest. But the key to rest is understanding why you're doing it. The reason that God requires this day of rest, and we should implement it in 2016, be adamant about, pausing, is because one, it's a reminder that you are not fully responsible for everything that happens to you. Right? There's a shifting that restores the mind and soul. And that only happens if you rest. Think about it. Every day you go to bed. You take a nap, you rest overnight so that the next day you'll be refreshed. So if you can do that same thing every week, then what it does is it refreshes you and restores you for the days and weeks to come. Here's what we're saying. When I work out, I know play basketball, there'll be times we go very hard, we do something really intense, then our coach will say rest. When he say rest, we'd either sit down on the floor, we lay down on the floor, or we, lean up against the wall. The key is in that moment, we shifted all of our weight onto something else. And for a temporary moment, we allowed something else to hold us up. Maybe, the lack of rest or the lack of taking a Sabbath day or sabbatical day is really us saying, God, we don't need you to take care of us. It may be us, subliminally saying that I can handle life on my own. I can do it, with my own finances and my own knowledge, my own wisdom, with my own skill. And all of us know that we really aren't able to fully take care of ourselves. So day seven's tip is learn how to rest, learn how to take time off, somehow be comfortable in inactivity, believing that while we aren't active, the world around us is still moving and God is making it work out for us. And I see somebody said, I need to learn how to rest. And I think, as we go through this, maybe we'll talk about how to rest. We'll talk about how to really set time aside, how to be still, how to maybe even schedule some time in and on your schedule to just rest. Think about it. You schedule everything else. And what you don't schedule, other people schedule for you. Maybe you should put on your calendar from 2 to 4, 2 to 3, rest time. And then you abide by your schedule. When somebody calls and asks if you have something to do, you look at it as if it were an appointment and say, well, I can't do it. I already have something scheduled. It's just rest. And I'm a firm believer that the Sabbath day really refreshes you for what God's getting ready to do. There's this text where Elijah had just come off of Mount Carmel, and he said, God, just take my life. What God does for him is he rejuvenates him. He says, no, Elijah, this is what I want you to do. I want you to eat a little bit, drink a little bit, take a nap. He woke him up, eat a little bit, drink a little bit, take a nap. And he does that a couple of times, but then afterwards, he sends him on a 40-day journey through wilderness and over mountains. See, God knows what's ahead, and because he knows what's ahead, he's already put in place this principle of resting. The tip for day 7 is this year, you got to learn how to rest. Go to worship, but then rest. Don't fill your Sundays up with just frivolous activity because you have time. Sometimes you have to use that time and learn how to rest. Day 8 recap. Day 8 was having meaningful conversation. That was yesterday. And so yesterday, we re-engaged in prayer. Prayer is, in fact, meaningful conversation. Now, here's how we stretch that. We have meaningful conversation with God because anytime you talk to him, it's very meaningful. There's some real intent. But even with people, I think we may talk a lot, maybe men not as much as the ladies, hypothetically, or hypothetically, men should talk as much. But in theory, men just don't have as many words. We just don't use as many generally. So there should be some moments you have meaningful, self-reflective conversation where you talk about things that matter. I think a lot of times we kind of recap our day. We may talk about what others have said. But when was the last time you had a real deep conversation with someone, either for you or for them, or maybe just for God? Day 8's tip was that day, have some meaningful conversation. If you didn't get to do it because you didn't, get the text messages or the email, then maybe you try that today. Just call somebody and ask them something that's relevant. Like, what is my purpose? Or how can I change the world? Or what am I doing that makes my life even worth having? Who have you affected? Who have you transitioned or transformed in your life? What would God have me to do next? What goals should I really focus on after, we narrow down that list? And then lastly is today. And today is really self-improvement, becoming the best you can be. Here are 5 quick tips on how you can become the best you. First, tip number 1, distinguish your thoughts from other people's thoughts. Do you know most people live their lives based on what other people have said about them? They dictate their actions, they dictate their attitude, how they feel based on what other people have spoken aloud about them. No. If you're going to find the best you somewhere deep down within, you have to distinguish your thoughts from others' thoughts. And sometimes that means separating yourself from what is the social norm or the mass majority. Sometimes media and the pressure, not spoken, but just seen, is something that we embrace as our own. Sometimes in life, you just got to sit down, sit back, find the inner thoughts for you, and remember your own values. Not living up to somebody else's expectation, but what do you expect from you? Not trying to become what everybody wanted you to become and stand high on the pedestal they put you on, but where in life do you want to be? What is it that you wanted to achieve? And as simple as that sounds, I really challenge you just to take some time today and really think about, what are your thoughts? What did you say you wanted to be a long time ago? Where did you say you wanted to be a long time ago? What did you want to have a long time ago? In what ways did you want God to use you a long time ago? Sunday's message for us was, you are one of a kind. And I think when we understand that we are in fact one of a kind, it starts with somehow distinguishing other people's thoughts about you and for you from your own thoughts. Step 2 in being the best you can be is really having some self-reliance. The question is, what do you bring to the table? Now, let's be clear. Life requires collaboration. You have to do, things with people. I think God sets us up to partner and collaborate with those around us. But you want to at least know where to start. And so before you get everything people have to offer, or before you partner and use everything others possess, somewhere in there, you want to know what your strengths are. What are your gifts? What are your talents? What are you good at? What are you passionate about? What do you like? What could you rely on you to get done? And again, today is about, maybe jotting that down, writing down, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Who am I? Who am I not? And once you discover who you are and what you are not, you'll be much more centered and focused on walking the line and running the race in the lane that really is yours. Step number 3 for being the best you can be is reevaluate your goals. So now that you've taken some time to distinguish your thoughts from others and figure out what your strengths are, now go back and figure out, now what can I do? If all I had was me, my knowledge, my skill set, all I had was the time that's available for me, what am I able to accomplish? What are you able to accomplish? When you figure that out, it will cause you to readjust some of your goals. Now, again, we're not going to set up our goals solely on what we can do, but we are going to found them and build them on what we can do. And then we have others come alongside us as partners and as acquaintances, as allies to help us move forward. But make sure you do spend some time really figuring out, what it is that you do, and then readjust those goals. If you haven't been with us, our first day, we asked you to write down 10 goals, narrow it down to 2. After you narrow down to 2, now figure out what can you do in those goals if nobody else comes along. See, if you figure that out, you don't have to wait. If you figure out what you can do, you won't be held up. If you figure out what you can do, then you can begin and then allow God to send others to help you finish it and complete it. But now, starting this year off is really hinged on your skill set. Finally, find some moment of solitude. You're on Periscope now. Glad you came on. You'll be on social media later because that's the trend. But somewhere in life, you got to be able to be happy alone. It's been said, for those who want people and want relationships and want friends and want to be in certain circles, it's been said, if you can't be happy alone, then why would you think somebody else wants to spend time with you? You have to be okay with that. Now, again, we're not saying that any person is at their own island. People do have to learn how to live in community. I think it still takes a village to raise a child and to help parents and adults be all that they can be. But you do have to learn how to live just with you. Be happy with you, your flaws and your strengths, the mistakes you've made and the achievements that you have accomplished. The last thing I want to talk about, as we talk about being the best you can be, is doing something. Hopefully you've been listening to these scopes, you've been watching these videos, and I'm not naive to think that, this voice is the only one you listen to. You're reading your scripture, you're attending church services, you're watching additional videos, you're on other periscopes. What are you doing? I mean, you got all this information, you have all this knowledge. Many of you are taking all of these notes, you have these ideas, you're retweeting people, you're coming up with your own tweets. How you center yourself when you're alone sometimes matters. That's what somebody just put in. You're definitely right, Miss Phyllis. You're absolutely right about that. My question now is, after you're centered, where will you go? What will you do? If my wife were on, she would ask, will you walk in it? Or are you going to just be still? Are you going to be stagnant? Or are you just going to keep filling your mind with all of this information and not doing anything with it? I want to encourage you on this day 9 to reevaluate you, identify the one of a kind you that no one else can discredit, and then make a move. Don't wait till February. Don't wait until you get everything you need to make the first step. Do what you can do now. Be doers of the word, not just hearers of the word. That's a great point. Be participators, not just spectators. Be actively involved, not passively watching, sitting on the sidelines, cheering others along, when really this life is yours to live. Listen, we're on day 9. I'll be back tomorrow morning with day 10, believing that you jump started 2016 and you're already moving in a great direction. This year we grow up, and God is expecting you to do great things. Have a great day. Be blessed. Thank you guys for the hearts. Thank you for the invites. I really appreciate you guys being on, and can't wait to talk to you again tomorrow. Bless you too.